I am 83 years old, and I have spent the last few mornings just staring at the man in the mirror. It is a strange thing looking at a face you have carried for 8 decades and realizing you don't actually know the person behind the eyes. I'm sitting here in a house that is far too quiet, realizing that I lived for 60 years to please every single person who walked through my door, except for the one person who never left. The doctors don't say it in so many words, but I know I am running out of time. My heart is tired, my joints are stiff, but the heaviest thing I carry isn't my age. It's the realization that I am a stranger to myself. I've spent my life being a good son, a reliable employee, a steady husband, and a providing father. I checked every box, I followed every rule, and yet I feel like a man who spent his entire life building a beautiful house for someone else to live in, only to realize at the very end that I've been sleeping in the garden the whole time. I remember being 21. I had dreams then, though they feel like smoke now. I wanted to travel. I wanted to paint. Not because I was good at it, but because the colors made me feel alive. But my father told me that art was for people who didn't have bills to pay. He told me that a man's worth was measured by the weight of his paycheck and the respect of his neighbors. So I put the brushes away. I didn't fight him. I didn't even argue. I just wanted him to be proud of me. I wanted to see that nod of approval. I got it, eventually. I spent 40 years in an office under fluorescent lights that seemed to bleach the soul right out of me. I was the first one in and the last one to leave. I took the promotions I didn't want because it was what a successful man was supposed to do. I bought the suits, I joined the clubs, and I smiled at people I didn't even like. Every time I got a raise, I felt a small spark of validation, but it was like eating air. It never actually filled me up. My wife, Martha, God rest her soul, she was a good woman. But even with her, I was a performer. I became the man she expected. I was the rock. I never complained. I never shared my fears or my restlessness. I thought that being a good husband meant being a finished product, something solid and unchanging. I didn't realize that by never showing her who I actually was, I was denying her the chance to truly love me. She loved the version of me I curated for her. We spent nearly 50 years together, and I think she died without ever knowing the man who sat beside her at the dinner table. It wasn't that I was lying. It was just that I was constantly editing. I'd start to say something maybe about how trapped I felt or how I wished we could just leave everything behind and see the world, but then I'd see the look of contentment on her face or the way she'd talk about our stable life, and I'd swallow the words. I'd just nod and say, "Yes, dear, everything is fine." The years didn't pass in a blur. That's the lie people tell you. They pass in slow, deliberate increments. They pass in the Tuesday mornings when you wake up feeling a hollowness in your chest, but you go to work anyway. They pass in the weekends spent at parties. You don't enjoy talking about things that don't matter just so you aren't the difficult one. You don't realize you're losing yourself. You think you're just being selfless. You think you're being mature. I remember my daughter's wedding. I was 60. I stood there watching her dance, and I should have been happy. But all I could think about was that I had worked 60 hours a week for 25 years to pay for a life I was too tired to enjoy. I looked around the room at all the people who praised me for being such a dedicated provider. I realized in that moment that if I had disappeared and been replaced by a machine that spit out money, their lives wouldn't have looked much different. I was a function, not a person. I kept waiting for the time when I could finally be myself. I told myself, When the kids are through college, then I'll do what I want. Then it was when I retire, then I'll find out who I am. But retirement came, and I found that I had forgotten how to have a want. I had spent so long suppressing my own desires to accommodate others that the muscle had atrophied. I would sit on the porch and try to think of what I enjoyed, and I would come up blank. I'd ask myself, what do I want to do today? And the only answer that came back was, whatever makes the least amount of trouble for everyone else. Then Martha got sick. For 5 years, I was her caregiver. I did it gladly because I loved her, but it was another 5 years of putting my own existence on the shelf. When she finally passed away 3 years ago, the house went silent, and that silence was terrifying. In that silence, there was no one left to please. No boss to impress. No wife to reassure. No children to provide for. It was just me. And I realized I didn't like being alone with me because I didn't know who me was. I had spent 60 years being a mirror for everyone else, reflecting back what they wanted to see. When they all walked away, the mirror was empty. I go to the grocery store now and I see young people. I see them rushing, looking at their phones, looking stressed about a job or a deadline. I want to grab them by the shoulders, not to yell, but just to whisper. I want to tell them, the people you are trying so hard to impress, they won't be there at the end. They'll be busy with their own lives, or they'll be gone. And you will be left with the choices you made. I have a son who lives 3 states away. He calls me every Sunday. He's a good son. He tells me about his job, his new car, his busy schedule. I hear the strain in his voice. I hear him trying to sound successful. I hear him trying to make me proud. It breaks my heart. I want to tell him, son, I don't care about the car. I don't care about the promotion. Tell me if you're lonely. Tell me if you're scared. Tell me what you're doing for you. But I don't know how to say it without sounding like a dying man, and I don't want to burden him. Not yet. There is a specific kind of grief that comes with being 83. It's not the grief of losing others. It's the grief of losing the life you could have had if you'd just been a little bit braver. I keep thinking about those paintings I never painted. I think about the trips I didn't take because I didn't want to waste the money. Now I have the money, and my legs are too weak to walk the streets of Paris. I have the time, and my eyes are too dim to see the canvas clearly. I spent my life being the good guy. But being the good guy to everyone else meant being a traitor to myself. I sacrificed my own joy on the altar of other people's comfort. And the most painful part, they didn't even ask me to. Most of the time, they wouldn't have cared if I'd taken a different path. They were too busy with their own reflections to notice I was fading away. I see myself in the mirror now, and I see the wrinkles, the age spots, the sagging skin, but more than that, I see a man who is finally, painfully awake. I'm 83, and I've decided that for the time I have left, whether it's months or days, I am going to stop performing. Yesterday, I bought a set of watercolors. My hands shake, and I'm not very good. The colors bleed into each other, and it looks like a mess. But for the first time in 60 years, I did something just because I wanted to do it, not because it was productive, not because it was expected, just because it's a small victory, I suppose. A very small one, considering the cost. If you're listening to this and you're still young, and to me, everyone is young, I just want you to think about that person in the mirror. You might think you're being unselfish by living for everyone else. You might think you're being noble. But you only get one life, just one, and it belongs to you. Not your parents, not your spouse, not your children, and certainly not your boss. Don't wait until you're 83 to realize that you've been a guest in your own life. Don't wait until the house is empty to find out who you are. It's a very lonely thing to realize you've spent your life being a shadow. I'm tired now. The sun is going down and the house is getting cold. I think I'll go sit in my chair and look at that messy amateur painting I made yesterday. It's the only thing in this whole house that actually belongs to me. If you're still out there trying to make everyone happy, please just stop for a second. Go look in the mirror. Really look. That person in there is the only one you're truly responsible for. Don't leave them waiting for 60 years. They might not have that much time. I don't expect this to change the world. I just needed to say it out loud before the silence takes me for good. If you've felt this way, or if you're going through it now, I hope you find the courage I didn't have. It's worth the risk of disappointing people. I promise you, it's worth it. Goodbye for now. Take care of yourself. And I mean that. Truly take care of yourself.